So I'm 10 years old, Mandurah Estuary. We're on the rocks there. We get out of our car and we're going fishing for herring. My dad and I are about to approach the water's edge. We hook up our rig, our prawn, some burley. First cast of the day, Dad casts. It hooks onto a seagull. The seagull lands in the water, and his dad's going, "Oh, we're fishing for herring, or we've got a seagull." So he's reeling in the seagull. I was like, "Oh my gosh, really a great start to the day." As soon as the seagull comes toward the edge of the water, he lowers toward the water to see if he can grab this seagull. And all of a sudden, underneath the rocks, enter Mr. Octopus. Mr. Octopus comes out and looks at the seagull, grabs his head and shifts him underwater. Of course, as you know, the seagull was still stuck to the fishing rig. So our fishing rod is bending down and the octopus is pulling the seagull down. Dad grabs, the hero he is, he grabs the legs of the seagull and he pulls it. There's this pull, tug of war happening between the octopus and Dad. And then pop, out comes Mr. Seagull. Mr. Seagull is now 5 centimeters taller. But then all of a sudden, Mr. Octopus gets angry. It starts going for Dad. Octopus goes, hugs around my dad's leg. And Dad says, "Caleb, get the knife. Get the knife." And so here I am, I'm absolutely gobsmacked. Turn around, I try to climb back up to the bucket, back up the rocks to get my knife. And as soon as I turn back, the octopus is gone.
What about the seagull?
We unhook the seagull and he goes on his merry way.
Oh, good.
He's fine. We turned back later that day, back to our house. We'd caught nothing that day. And Dad, I remember him saying in the driveway of our holiday home, he said, "We could have had an octopus for dinner tonight." We were looking for fish. We were hunting for fish. But all we got was a seagull. Now in business, whether you're presenting an elevator pitch or whether you're presenting to a group, prospects, clients, it might feel a little bit discouraging sometimes because you might be looking for fish. Your fish are your prospective clients. But what if you find yourself speaking to a room of seagulls? Now, be careful what I mean, because seagulls are a derogatory term. Seagulls might be the ones who are also looking for fish, for clients. But I want to say this, don't be discouraged in your networking and your presenting or your speaking if you encounter other seagulls. Because here's the hit. Seagulls also know where the fish are. Yeah. And the way you reel in your seagull, who cares about the fish? You might just get your octopus. Why get fish when you can have an octopus? When it comes to presenting better business presentations, you're not just doing a presentation for the sake of sharing a story or talking, but you're sharing a business presentation because you want to lead your audiences, whether they're fish, seagulls, or octopus, to a point where you can add value to their lives. In this day and age, presentations are a bit of a dirty word. When it comes to presenting with any element of confidence, most people will start thinking, "Oh, I have to deliver a presentation at work, or I have to deliver a presentation for a meetup." So I'll sit in front of my computer, open up PowerPoint, and see what I can come up with. Due to the rise of technology and PowerPoint, we've seen presentations come from an art form into something that is just, another presentation, and I don't want to watch another thing. And this is really highlighted in an advert that came out 2 years ago. I want to show it to you, and I really want you to pay attention to the first line that comes out of the woman in the passenger seat. Sometimes technology doesn't work. That's okay. The woman in this passenger seat turns back and says, "Have you got the presentation?" The people in the back are scourging and they're thinking, "Oh, I haven't got the presentation." They connect to the Telstra wireless dongle and they find that they can download the presentation. When people think of presentation, they think of the PowerPoint. But guess what? You are the presentation. You're the messenger. You're as important as the PowerPoint slide itself. So I want to let people know that your presentation is more than just the slideshow, your visual aids. It's you. You're the messenger. Four years ago, there's a guy named John. He used to be my boss. He used to be the CEO of a company called Red Meets Blue. Smart guy, switched on guy. He was born in Perth, but he's not a Perth type of guy. He lives in New York, big thinker, big visionary, big creative thinker. He was asked to speak at an event, like a TED-style event here in Perth. He had all these ideas about creativity, but he just had no idea how to structure it. He had no idea how to combine his thoughts together. And as a result, he was stressed. He was absolutely fretting about having to present and trying to fit in all this content. When he rehearsed, he found that he spoke way too fast and he felt like he was saying ums, ahs, filler words, speaking way too fast. So one day, he approached me and he said, "Caleb, I need your help." And so we sat in the meeting room and the boardroom. And I asked him, what's going on? And he said, "Well, I feel like I'm speaking way too fast." And I said, "Well, you got to follow something that Seinfeld, the sitcom, their producers do. They call this cutting the muscle. You might have great content in your presentation, but you've got to have the discipline of cutting the muscle. Muscle's good, but you need to leave the most essential and the best content in." And so I helped him structure a presentation, which made sure there was actually less content, but he was able to present with far more confidence, with far more clarity, because he followed this principle that less is more. When you're asked to speak at an event, or you're even hosting your event, the temptation is to tell everyone about everything you do.
Guilty.
It is better to leave them wanting more than to overload them with information. And as a result, you can take your time when you're presenting. You don't have to speak so fast and be so frenetic. You can speak at a natural rate, a conversational rate. Think less is more. Less is more in your PowerPoint slides, and as we saw with Wayne today, I appreciated the fact that it wasn't filled with bullet points and dot points, it was just visuals. You were the star of the show. Less is more. Always think less is more. When it comes to putting together a message, most people think, should I put 3 points in? Should I put 5 points in? 7 points in? What about 10 points in? My philosophy has always been this: just put 1 point in. Speak about one thing. Less is more. Now you might think, okay, I need to inform my audience. There's a step, there's some progressions, there's 3 steps or 5 steps. That's okay, but ensure that you build your presentation around the fact that it's leading to 1 point. This guy's name's James. He's one of the most experienced speakers I've ever come across. He saw John present at that TED-style event, and he was so impressed that he approached me to ask him about his speaking. Beforehand, he asked me, I've got to present at this Speakers Tribe event. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of Speakers Tribe, but I'm speaking at a Speakers Tribe in a few weeks, and I would love some feed for it. So we sit down, we set up that camera, and we actually do a dry run of his presentation. As a result, he performs what he's going to speak, and he was excellent. It was fantastic. He was an experienced speaker. He knew what he was talking about. But he realized there were some micro movements, some micro body language things that he picked up. So for example, he would, in communicating his one big statement, he would scratch his neck. Malcolm Turnbull this week, as I was saying before, has been a fantastic case study in body language. You'll see the little micro movements, the nods, the shrugs. He's saying something completely different to his body language. And so by having a feed-forward session with him, he was able to pick up on the small things before he had to deliver on the big day. When he delivered on the big day, I actually got to turn up. We were expecting about 25, 30 people, and all up, 8 people showed up. Great presenters know how to adapt their message when they're expecting to present in front of 50, 500 people, and only 5 turn up. Or even the opposite way around. They might expect 10 people, but they get 100. The best presenters know how to adapt, and I was able to see him live in action. After that point, we recorded it, and then I put together a 1-page document. Now, I'm not expecting you to read this, please don't. But what I do, I observe the audience, I make observations about the audience, I make commendations and recommendations, much like what we do here at Speakup Meetup. I then judge him on the criteria, like the criteria you see in your feedback grid, and report back to him as a feedback. Whether you're an inexperienced speaker like John, or a very experienced speaker like James, we can all do with some feed forward and feedback, me included. I'm not exempt from this. There's something very special about receiving input, guidance and support, and specific support when you're presenting. And business leaders, we need to up our game when it comes to presenting.